Let's talk about Sharia law in Britain. Some Muslims in the UK are pushing for it to be a recognized part of the legal system, but this isn't happening in a vacuum. Britain has long identified itself as a Christian nation, where the Christian faith was historically protected, recognized, and given authority by the monarchy and the state. So now, we're seeing two very different faith systems competing for recognition in the same country. This kind of competition isn't new, it's just taking on a new form. Think about Britain's history. The Christian faith wasn't just a set of personal beliefs. It was a powerful institution, protected by the crown. It shaped laws, moral codes, social structures, and even punishments. The monarchy didn't just acknowledge Christianity, it enforced it, often with an iron fist. But history holds a truth that we simply cannot afford to ignore. A truth that connects both of these systems in a way you might not expect. When we look at the historical actions of both Christianity and Sharia law, not just their theological ideals, we find a common thread. Both are rooted in violence. Consider the actions of Christianity in the 17th, 18th, and even early 19th centuries. How many people were executed, imprisoned, or tortured? Accused of heresy. We're talking about hundreds of thousands of lives lost under the authority of religion. This isn't speculation, it's recorded history. This pattern of using faith to justify force has deep roots, and this brings us to the very soul of the British nation. Every country the British Empire descended upon was met with violence, death, and unimaginable harm. British expansion created orphans, shattered families, destroyed communities, and stripped entire nations of their resources and dignity. The British nation showed no mercy and no compassion toward other nations. It took whatever it wanted, at any cost, even when that cost was the lives of innocent people. The empire was built on force, not compassion. The British nation worships and honors a monarchy whose central objective was always control, rule, and the conquest of nations. These conquests were for profit, wealth, power, valuable minerals, and expanding influence. Compassion was never the priority. Control was. This relentless pursuit of power and wealth, disguised under a banner of civilization and faith, set in motion a chain of events that is now coming full circle. But there is a hidden secret, a profound truth that this nation and its people were never taught. The church, which was so favored by the monarchy, deliberately withheld this knowledge. Why? Because if this secret ever became common knowledge, their control over the British nation would be lost forever. This secret is the universal law. You might know it by other names. The law of cause and effect. The law of sowing and reaping, or karma. It is a system of justice that operates beyond human courts and religious doctrines. This brings us to the justice that is now facing the British nation and its monarchy. For centuries, you acted with violence and brutal force against innocent people to satisfy your greed for control, prosperity, and power. You did not act with respect, mercy, compassion, or dignity toward the nations you conquered. And now, the universal justice system is bringing the full force of the universal law into fulfillment against the British nation and its monarchy. You see, this law is absolute and impartial. The reward of this universal law of justice is now at hand. The British nation sowed seeds of violence, hatred, brutal force, inhumane treatment, death, suffering, and starvation. These seeds were planted in the bodies and lands of people across the globe. For a long time, the earth took its time to produce the harvest from these seeds. The one who was meant to collect this harvest could not act, because the final approval had not yet been given. The case against the empire, the full account of its actions, was hidden from the highest authority. The people who suffered, the very ones who were meant to present their case, were never aware of the universal law because this knowledge was kept secret from them. But a secret of this magnitude cannot be hidden forever. This universal truth has now been revealed, and true, impartial justice can finally be addressed. The scales must be balanced. So, what is the justice reward for the British nation? It is simple and it is direct. You descended upon other nations with violence. Now, you will harvest the very seed that you and your ancestors have sown for generations. The seed of violence you planted in others will now be harvested and poured back upon the British nation and its monarchy, not just in equal measure, but in overflowing abundance. This leads to a dramatic reversal of roles. The nations you once ruled will now rule over you. You will become their subjects. Those people you dominated, including the Muslims who now seek to implement their Sharia law, will gain the upper hand. They will overpower you, not just through argument, but through the unstoppable momentum of this cosmic law. The power dynamics are shifting, and the former masters will become the servants. It all comes down to this final, unchangeable declaration. What you sow, you must reap, and you will reap it in overflowing abundance. You sow, you reap. This is the universal law. This law never forgets. It is patient, it waits for the right time, but it will always enforce the reward of the harvest upon those who sowed the seed. Your nation and your ancestors have sown their actions throughout history. Now is the time to receive your reward. Thank you for listening.